Welcome back to my channel. I am Stephen Stark, your host. Joining me this week is Quinn from Ideas of Ice and Fire.
Hey
Well, maybe
guys.
not from Ideas of Ice and Fire. You are Ideas of Ice and Fire.
Yeah. Yeah, basically. Hi guys, how's everyone going? I'm really excited to be here and just like have a chat. And yeah.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Sanrixian will not be joining us this week. She was supposed to be here, but she says she's feeling very not well at the moment. I'm not going to go into any details, but she's, we send you our best, Sanri. We love you. But Quinn, when I
Hey.
started my channel, you were like one of the top names, and I was like, I got to get this guy. I got to get him on. And I feel like I've hit the big time a little bit. So for those of you who don't know who Quinn is, first of all, where have you been hiding? Quinn, why don't you tell everybody, who you are, what you do in the fan space, and where people can find you if they are not following you already.
All right, so my name is Quinn. I run the YouTube channel Ideas of Ice and Fire. And you can tell by the name that initially it was focused mainly on A Song of Ice and Fire. And then I started covering the Game of Thrones show too because people wanted me to. And then later on I moved on to, other fantasy and science fiction books I did, like Kingkiller Chronicles, Mist of Avalon. I've done some Stephen King stuff. Dune is one that's been really big for me. Now I'm doing Hyperion, Foundation, still A Song of Ice and Fire, Dune, all that stuff. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, all over the place. You can just look up Ideas of Ice and Fire and you can find me.
Right on.
Yeah.
So Quinn, you've been at this for a little while, I know. And you say you started off really like as a book-focused channel.
Yeah.
You have since branched out into the show, and you're known for many things in the fandom, and one might be your very strong opinions on certain things that happened in the television show.
Yes.
I like that you're not afraid to really, speak your mind. One of the things that I always enjoy when having these type of conversations is somebody who is willing to speak with passion about whatever it is they're saying, whether I know that fandom or not, whether I agree with it or not. Like, I have such a deeper appreciation for Dune in general, just because of all the videos you made. And actually, there were quite a few people asking questions about your love of Dune, and we'll get to that. But I guess that's another thing you're known for. But for me, it's always going to come back to that golden voice, man. When I remembered hearing you one time. I can't remember where it was. It might have been in a live stream or something, but you said you recorded your first video in a closet.
Yes.
And, you got the good acoustics, you got the great voice, and here you are. So, Quinn, have you always been a nerd?
Oh yeah.
Okay. A lifer.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I never really called myself a nerd until, now like everyone, like nerd, that's like popular. Everyone says like, I'm a nerd, but I guess like I was a real nerd, as in like I was like the real like nerdy kid that was like outcast, that sat in the corner with the book and like read while like everyone else was like playing out resource. I was like reading a book, like not even playing with the rest of the kids. So yes, I was always a nerd, and it was never like something where I was like, I'm going to take on this identity so I can be a part of a fandom. It's just like, I am a nerd. That's what I am.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's not dissimilar to me. I was the ostracized nerd, D&D nerd in the 80s. It was about as bad as it could get. You ever play Dungeons and Dragons, Quinn?
I never have. And see, that's the thing about being like isolated. You need people. You need to have friends to play Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, I mean, I had 3 friends to play D&D with, and that was my friend group.
See, that's the thing. Like, okay, this might sound weird to people, but like, I grew up in the Black community, and Black people don't play Dungeons and Dragons. That's the deal.
As a general rule, I've met way more, white guys. It is a white guy dominated thing.
Yes. So it's like you have to have friends that are interested in playing it to be able to play it. So, but I did get into things like Magic the Gathering, which
I'm a big Magic fan too.
Yeah,
we'll get to it, I'm sure. Let's say hi to some folks in the chat. A lot of people turned out to learn all about you, Quinn. We got Augustus87 Heron in the chat. Leaf Underhill used to be known as Mother of Tribbles. Kwahoatli 2004. I have no idea if I'm ever saying your name right, but it's always nice to see you. Danny McKay, Moni G, Ava Iglesias, Professore. I don't know you, Professore, but welcome. Santevia Major. You, I do know. John Webster, Jess Britvak, Ambrose Balin, Kraken Tacos. Today, your name is. Give me a name. Quinn. Think of a good name for Kraken Tacos to be.
Like based on what?
It doesn't matter. A man's name. See
Jacob.
Okay, you're Taco Jake today. Larry Lambert, Melissa Schultz. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Bernie, Questing Beast. That's Nessie. Nessie will be on next week when we do our Expanse coverage.
Oh, the Expanse.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. Okay, well, everybody, thanks for coming out. I see we got, about 20 people here, but that's a good audience. Quinn, what was like that one thing that was this drew me in? This is the alternate world that I wanted to live in. That first fandom that really sucked you in.
Oh, that's such an interesting question. I don't know. Let me think. I don't know if this is a fandom, but if it was, I want to live in this world and I want to be here, then I always have to go back to The Wizard of Oz. Now, I was a messed up kid, so like when I watched The Wizard of Oz, like I was looking at it like, okay, the Wicked Witch, she's like this powerful woman, she has all these magical powers, and then Dorothy just comes out of nowhere and kills her sister, and then Glinda comes in, steals her inheritance, the slippers. The Wicked Witch just wants what's rightfully hers back. So I always thought of that story as like the Wicked Witch. I mean, I feel like she's not getting there, and then she gets murdered at the end. So I mean, I always wanted to live in Oz. That drew me into like fantasy, and then from that, I got really interested in like witchcraft and paganism. I read a bunch of witch books, and from that, I just that was the gateway into fantasy for me. And I mean, that's not the typical answer, but yeah, that was it. If I'm being honest.
Okay. Hey, that's a fantastic answer. I love it. I do, The Wizard of Oz is a trippy, weird movie, and I don't know that I've ever thought of it that way, but, you raise a good point.
Glinda shady.
Okay, well, hey. Sorry, I was distracted by the chat for a second. So Quinn, Dune then.
Mm-hmm.
Dune is the thing that changed your life, I would guess.
Well, it was really, really Dune and A Song of Ice and Fire. I started reading A Song of Ice and Fire a really long time ago. Like, I think I was around 12 or 13.
Okay, too 25. Young to be reading it, really.
Yeah. I'm 25 now. I just turned 25 this year. So yeah, I was reading it. I think when I first started reading it, A Feast for Crows might have just been coming out, or was about to come out or whatever. So like I really got into A Song of Ice and Fire because like a lot of those main characters like Jon Snow, Daenerys, I was like the same age as them. So it was kind of like I was almost growing up with them, and I got really hooked into those characters and their stories. But at the same time, I didn't really comprehend A Song of Ice and Fire and what it was and what George R. Martin was trying to say with these characters and the story and the themes and ideas he was trying to put forth until much later in my life when I read them later. And that's when like when I heard about there being a show, I read them again. I got really excited. I had all these new ideas, and that's when I made the YouTube channel. Now, Dune was something that came a little bit later in life. I didn't read Dune like when I was like growing up or anything.
Right.
Actually, Danica IXX, that's her name now. She used to go by Comic Book Girl 19.
Okay, I know who you're talking about.
She was really into Dune, and she would always be like, "Oh, Dune is like legit. Dune is like so good." And so I was like, "Okay, if she says it's really good, I'll read it." And so I read Dune about like I want to say like 3 or 4 years ago at this point. So it hasn't been like super long. Yeah, and so I read it, and I was like, my mind was just like teleported into a different place because I had read science fiction before and I had heard of Dune before, but I had never read anything like Dune before. And I just realized Frank Herbert is doing something with these books that almost nobody else is doing, and almost nobody is talking about this in a way that's like can reach a bunch of people and to help like the masses understand. And I thought I could do something to help people get Dune and really get what it's about. And so that's where the ultimate guide to Dune came from. And it just so happens that people liked it and people cared about it. So I was really proud of that.
Well, part of that I think comes from the fact that you know what you're talking about. You can explain it well. You can explain it with passion, and I'm always going to end the list with you got that voice, man.
Thank you.
That's a blessing. I've heard you sing too. You posted a video at some point somewhere where you were singing,
probably,
and you have a really nice voice, man. Soulful.
Thank you. I think it kind of runs in the family. So my granddad was actually a DJ in the 70s around this area, and he was actually pretty popular. There's this there's this weird story that I always used to hear from old people growing up. So they called my granddad Bouncin' Baby, and I always wondered why they called him that. And I used to hear this story about basically one night at the club or whatever, they brought him in a casket, and everyone was like, "Oh no, he's dead." And then he like jumps out in a baby's diaper and starts dancing around and bouncing around. So that's why they called him Bouncing Baby. But yeah, he had this really like kind of epic sounding voice too. And I remember we would go out in public and people would like notice it. I remember one time we were just like out eating, and like this random guy walks up to us and he says, "Hey, did you used to be like a radio announcer or something, or a DJ? Because I could hear you all the way across the room," because his voice just really projected.
Right.
So maybe that's where that comes from. And then a lot of people in my family are singers. Like my mom's a really good singer. Lots of people are singers in my family. So that's where that comes from. We're just really musical, I guess.
Right on, dude. Well, I have music in me too. You have a nicer voice than I do. I have a passable voice. I'm not tone deaf, but I'm not lead singer. I'll harmonize with you. Are you into making music at all, or is it just like
I make some music for fun sometimes, but I don't really share it with anybody now.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah. I can understand. It can be a very intensely personal thing, even.
Yeah, for sure. It's like music for me. I sing for therapeutic reasons a lot of the time.
Well, I get that. I tell people I think you should sing a little bit every day. Even if it's just in the shower or with the car radio on.
It's definitely good for the soul, I feel like. I find when I sing, it just it feels like something's been like set free almost. It's an outlet for sure.
Right on. So, okay, I guess I was under the impression that you had been into Dune for a long, long time because you do speak with such authority on it.
See, that's what's so weird, right? It's like I've suddenly become an authority on Dune when like initially when I made that Dune video, I had a pretty strong A Song of Ice and Fire following. I put out that Dune video and it only got like 3,000 views in like 2 weeks, which was really low for me at the time.
Right.
And I thought like, oh, I failed, but at least I know that I put out a really good video. And then like all of a sudden that video just blew up and I was like, okay, this video did it. Now I can go on and make the other 7 parts that I said that I would make in the first one. And so that's what I committed to. And they just got so popular and people just kept asking for more and more and more. So I just kept researching more and more, reading more and more. That's also people always ask why the Ultimate Guides take so long. It's because I don't want to make any mistakes.
And you're literally like almost learning it to make the video, it sounds like.
Well, I had read all the books before I started. But like I had to reread them over and over and over again to like make videos that actually stood out and that actually weren't just like, BS. And I wanted to put effort in it to show people that I cared about the message that Frank Herbert was trying to put out.
So what do you think is Frank Herbert's big message?
Well, it's multifaceted, but I think at the core of it is like question your leaders. Always question leaders is the main thing, I would say, without getting too complicated.
That's a great message to write about, I think.
For sure.
So what do you think the main message then is of A Song of Ice and Fire?
Oh my God. So A Song of Ice and Fire, I feel like is such a multifaceted thing. But I think at the heart of A Song of Ice and Fire is a deeply anti-war message. I
Yeah,
think it's about how war just tears apart societies and just destroys lives, and how it's ultimately futile. And
yeah,
I think that's ultimately the point.
yeah. I tend to agree. My short answer is always so A Song of Ice and Fire is about in war, nobody really wins.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Right on. Well, I've got a couple of questions here from some people on Twitter. We'll start with my buddy Kurt Kuhlman at Outer Panda on Twitter. Also plays on my Dungeons and Dragons game. He says he's so pumped to hear that you're planning on creating videos on Ian M. Banks's The Culture series.
Yes.
And I gotta know if you could have any capital ship from any science fiction universe, which would it be? Which I felt was a great opening question.
Oh my goodness.
I know it's a little bit blindsiding, so we'll give you a moment to think about it.
I know. I don't even know why I did that. The Enterprise from Star Trek Next Generation. The Enterprise D.
Enterprise D.
Always. That ship is just luxurious and beautiful, and it's got what's it called? God, I'm blanking. Tin Ford. The bar.
Yeah, it's got a holodeck.
Holodecks, and it's just like it's that you watch any of the other Star Trek shows, that is the most luxurious ship that they've ever had. Like that place was like a 5-star hotel. Yeah. So Enterprise. Wow,
this is a solid answer. I'm trying to think of a way to disagree with you, and I just haven't come up with one yet. Like there are ships out there that might be more powerful, but when you start to take in all the amenities and everything, I think you're right.
Comfortable on the Enterprise.
Yeah, there's not an uncomfortable place to be.
Mm-hmm. I always wanted to live on that ship. I always wanted to be in the Star Trek. That's another one of the fandoms that I got drawn into. Like I've always wanted to be a part of that, and then just explore space. It's just a dream of mine.
I love it, man. I am not the biggest Star Trek fan. I do like it quite a lot. I've seen the original series and Next Generation and Voyager and a little bit of DS9 and like all the movies at least once. I'm not the biggest, and I'm in a lot of rooms I would be, but I live with two really, really, really big time Star Trek fans. So maybe it's my lens is a little
like by comparison
out of calibration there,
because like you just named off a bunch of the shows, and I have friends that haven't even seen most of those shows.
Right,
that would call themselves Star Trek.
But like I haven't seen Discovery. I
haven't seen most of Discovery. I haven't finished the first season. It's nothing against them. I'm sure they're working hard, but I just can't. It's not necessarily for me.
Yeah, my mom, who's in the chat, is a big Trekkie.
Hey, Steven Stark's mom.
It's Betsy Mitchell. Most of the regulars here know who she is. But yeah, I am hyped for Picard though.
Oh, for sure. Like Patrick Stewart, and then they're also bringing back 7 of 9 from Voyager. I saw Brad Spiner in there. Marina Sirtis is coming back apparently. Jonathan Frakes. Yeah, it's like I'm very excited. It's like a whole reunion. It looks like. No word on LeVar Burton though. I wonder if he's gonna pop up. He's still around and doing stuff, so I don't see why he wouldn't.
I don't see why he wouldn't either.
Yeah.
Unless he's like he was not available filming Reading Rainbow or something. Right on.
Rainbow.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Anytime anybody mentions LeVar Burton, have you ever seen a show called Community?
Yes, I've seen it with Donald Glover.
Donald Glover, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple episodes with LeVar Burton in it because Donald Glover's character is like the hugest fan of LeVar Burton, especially from the Reading Rainbow. And that show is hilarious for those of you that have not seen it. Community is fantastic.
I should definitely watch more of it. I've only ever seen a little bit of it.
Okay. Do yourself a favor. Go back to that. It's Dan Harmon who does Rick and Morty.
Now. Yeah.
So, and I need to watch Rick and Morty. I also need to watch like Adventure Time and
wait. You haven't watched Rick and Morty? Any of it?
No, I haven't.
Dude, I'll watch Community if you watch Rick and Morty.
Fair.
because like Rick and Morty, I know there's like memes about it and like people like whatever,
I
but
mean,
it's like it's legit.
yeah, it's on the list, but it's just like there's so much good content out there,
Yeah, for sure.
and sometimes it's just down to like animation climbs up the list slowly for me. What can I say?
I always tell people to watch Gravity Falls. I think it's because it's 2 seasons. It's a contained story. Gravity Falls is such a good like little fantasy story, and it's like you might think, oh, it's for kids, whatever. F you, watch it. It's amazing. Gravity Falls. Also Rick and Morty.
Yeah, people are telling me to prioritize Rick and Morty immediately.
100%.
The chat is letting me have it for not okay. I mean, I do really love Dan Harmon's sense of humor.
And Rick and Morty is, I think there's humor, but then Rick and Morty is also a show that touches on a lot of topics that you wouldn't think a cartoon would touch on. There's one episode in season 3, I don't remember what it's called, but the people in the chat probably know what episode it is. But it's the episode where they go to the place where there's a bunch of Rick and Mortys, and they're like a bunch of different versions of them basically, and there's a whole society of them. So there's like oppression against like Mortys are like second class citizens, and then there's like class, even though they're all literally the same, they're still oppressing each other, and it's such like just a fantastic episode.
That's
like
good
metaphor. It's so good.
Yeah, that's one of those really well applied sort of story beats.
So
yeah. So have you seen The Expanse? Because that's what we're talking about next week. And you said The Expanse, and we moved on. But I wanted to come back. Have you seen it?
I've started reading The Expanse because of Aziz, and I am on book 1, but like I'm getting into it. Like Aziz, when we were at Con of Thrones this year, Aziz told me about The Expanse. He told me a bunch of interesting things that kind of happened and what it was about, and I'm super curious about it. I just started it, and I'm engaged. That's all I want to say right now. They don't want to have anything spoiled for me. So
we'll actually leave that conversation there, and I'll urge you not to watch next week, even because I don't want to spoil anything for you. But and I haven't read the books. I'm always, maybe I'm a plebeian, but I always default to the audiovisual medium for storytelling. It's just what I prefer. I tell people that if I could do it over again, I would go to film school because that's how I want to tell my stories. It's the rare book that really moves me to jump into a book.
I love movies as well.
Right.
Like I absolutely love films, horror movies too, because I say horror movies because like horror movies, it's so difficult to find a really good one. But yeah, I love movies too.
George R.R. Martin has a great quote about horror movies, and I don't know it off the top of my head, but I might Google it here in a minute. Really, oh man, now I gotta find this quote. So, what's your favorite horror movie then?
Oh my god, that's such a okay. I'm just gonna name off one that this is a movie that I think is just like criminally like underrated. Maybe not underrated, but just like not known enough. And it's like one of the best horror movies that I've seen in like the past 20 years, decade. And that is The Babadook. Oh my god, if you have not watched The Babadook, watch The Babadook. It is just like this crazy metaphor about the shadow self. And so basically the setup is there's a woman, she has a problem child, and it's about the woman at a struggle with herself and her own like resentment towards her child, because like I don't want to spoil it, but it's a great metaphorical horror story about this creature known as the Babadook that manifests itself and comes and hunts this woman and her child. But ultimately the creature is representative of a darkness inside of herself. That's my take on the movie. But like you can go and watch it and get what you want from it. But like I love that movie, and it's just like criminally like unknown and underrated. So if you haven't seen The Babadook, I recommend that movie to everyone. And then one that I saw recently too, another one since we're on the subject.
Go ahead.
Suspiria, and that came out I think last year or maybe in 2017. And Suspiria, it's a remake of an older film which I have not seen and I heard this one was totally different anyway. but it's about witches, and everyone knows that I'm really into witches. I love witches. It's about witches, and they have this dance studio, and it was just such an interesting take on witchcraft, and it was not like one that I'd seen before, and I just thought it was really well done, and just it has an incredibly like brutally fantastic like ending sequence. It's got a lot of gore for people that like that. So yeah, Suspiria, The Babadook, Hereditary. A lot of people liked Hereditary. I thought that one was. I liked Hereditary, but I didn't think it was as unique as a lot of people were saying, because Hereditary was kind of like derivative of some other stuff like The Exorcist, Rosemary's Baby. It was very like I've seen this before, but
right. Yeah. Well, I can't find this George R.R. Martin quote, but it goes something like, "Good horror writing isn't about 6 different ways to kill a vampire, or just how grotesque it was when, you know, Johnny's eyeball was removed from its socket. It's about the condition of human experience. It becomes a metaphor for sexuality. It becomes a metaphor for acceptance, or, you know, sort of like take Dawn of the Dead, for example. You know, that is a clear allusion to sort of like, it all takes place in a mall. It's anti-consumerist. It's sort of like the zombies represent groupthink. You know, there's a lot going on there when you start to peel away the layers and you look at what does the zombie actually represent. Because originally they were that sort of like nameless, faceless horde, because they rose out of a time, you know, post-Nazi world. I'm stumbling over my words a little bit because I was looking for this quote, but horror, like good science fiction, reflects the state of the world at the time it's written.
Yeah. See, yeah, and I was talking about the Babadook and the metaphors that are going on in that movie, and I was talking about the creature like actually represents like the dark part of the mother, because the movie itself is kind of about motherhood, and there are mothers. I mean, this is horrible, but there are mothers that turn on their own children and kill them. That happens. So that's what the Babadook represents, that darkness inside of herself, that part of herself that might want to get an easy way out and get rid of this problem child that destroyed her life and it is the reason that her husband is dead and all these things. It's that part of her that resents the child. Yeah, so it's good horror it reflects upon the human condition, and like George says another quote, there's nothing worth writing about other than the human heart and conflict itself.
Yep.
So yeah.
Which is, yeah, why I fell in love with A Song of Ice and Fire, and also why I've fallen in love with The Expanse. No spoilers, but man, that story is really good.
I agree with what Jess said. 1984 is a horror book. I definitely agree. That book is torture. It's written that way. It for sure, like from the opening page, when like you got the main character who knows he's being watched and he's kind of like around. It's very, very horror.
Yeah, I remember that. I think that's the first book I ever threw across the room.
Yeah, because it ends just like God.
Yeah, I know. It's a gut punch.
Just like, well, damn. Like, so this is what we have to look forward to. Just like, and the message of it is like, and it just keeps going.
Yeah,
you can't stop this. Nope. It's like you have to the book is a warning. It's like, don't get to this point, because once you get to this point, there is no turning back.
Right. Yeah. It's one man trying to hold back the tide.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very scary book.
Yeah, it really is. I read a lot of dystopian stuff in high school. I guess it was a phase, but this is probably the one that I hated / loved the most.
Yeah, for sure.
So, movies then, like, do you have a favorite movie? Because some people don't. I don't know that I do, but maybe, I don't know. Do you have a favorite movie?
I mean, if I would have to say The Wizard of Oz again.
Okay, fair enough. There's a lot going on in that movie. I mean, from a technical standpoint too.
Yeah, for sure. And then also, I feel like I saw it so young, and it had such an effect on me. I cannot stress enough the effect that The Wicked Witch of the West had on me, because it just ignited an interest in me of like magic and spellcasters, and that just became something that I was intrigued in, and it opened a whole window into things like the Lord of the Rings and all of that stuff. The Wizard of Oz. And then also I do love the Lord of the Rings movies like to death.
They're fantastic.
Like they are absolutely fantastic. I read the books probably around the same time that the movies were coming out. That's why they kind of blend together for me. Like I talk about it on Twitter sometimes, and people have to call me out. They're like, that's in the movie, not in the book, because it blends together for me, because I've seen the movies just like over and over and over and over.
Well,
and
yeah,
over.
that's the. I've read the books, which is not nothing for somebody like me. I'm dyslexic, so, and let's be honest, Tolkien uses some kind of cumbersome language sometimes. So,
yeah,
that those books were a slog for me, but I got through them. I wanted to pay homage to the classics, but yeah, like my knowledge of Middle Earth comes from 3 movies, because those Hobbit movies, I didn't even watch the second or third one. After the first one, I'm just like, nope.
Like, see, that's the thing. Those Hobbit movies were just like, I don't know what they were thinking. Like, I feel like the third movie has like one cool scene. I like the scene. It's the scene. There's a scene where Galadriel, the High Elf Queen,
Yeah, I know.
off with Sauron, and I just thought that was a cool scene. But everything else about that movie was terrible. Like, I'm talking about the last one specifically, which was probably like the worst out of the 3, honestly. And I had to sit through them just because it was just like, well, I'm committed to it now. I just gotta watch it. But yeah, it's crazy how they can stretch. I have that book in there, The Hobbit. It's like this thin. It's crazy how they can stretch that tiny little story into like 3 2.5 hour movies. It's like
they can't. They can't. They had to make up a whole bunch of other stuff.
It was ridiculous. No. And it was almost like nothing. It was almost like not even similar. Like I told you, I said I liked the scene with Galadriel. Galadriel's not even in the book. I don't think there's like a single female.
There is not one female character. Not even Arwen or like Olwen, who are like the 2 women in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's almost like a totally different deal.
Well, it's a going off to war story written from somebody who fought in World War I. There were no women.
Yeah.
So that tracks for me, at least from a cultural standpoint. I'm not going to hold Tolkien's feet to the fire on that one.
Mm-hmm. For sure. But yeah, the Lord of the Rings, those movies, I if I'm being perfectly honest, the movies had a bigger effect on me than the books. I feel like I probably was reading the books because I liked the movies. Like, because this was years ago for me. This is 2003. I got to be like, I don't know, 10 or something. So it's like, I don't know how old I was.
Yeah, for a 10-year-old, that's a pretty hefty book to sit down with at 10 years old. Of course, if you're reading A Song of Ice and Fire at 12 or 13, I guess that's just who you are, Quinn.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I've always loved reading. I remember like when, you know the Dollar Tree. We have stores in the South called the Dollar Tree.
Oh yeah, I live right outside of Dallas. There's a Dollar Tree probably less than a mile from where I live.
When I was a kid, like I loved going in Dollar Tree and just like getting like the books, and just like everyone else would be getting toys, I was always getting books. That was just like what I've always loved reading.
Yep, I was getting the D&D book. So because I wanted to tell my own stories,
Yeah, for sure. See, I wish I could have played D&D, but I just never had the opportunity.
You still can. It's never too late. And and with modern technology, it's super easy. Like my D&D group, we just fire up Google Hangouts and play for 4 hours on a Saturday afternoon.
That's super cool. See, actually, I was actually reading. I'm going to run in here and get this real quick. Give me 2 seconds.
Sure. Okay. Well, I'll entertain the people while he's gone. Hi. How y'all doing today? Anybody got any? Okay, you know what? I'm gonna hide. Everybody hide, and when he comes back, we'll jump out and surprise him. All right. Yes, Kelly. What's up?
So the lights are on. Alexa, turn off the office light. Anyways, this is what I was talking about. Where'd Steven go?
Yeah, okay. We were trying to I told everybody to hide while you were gone.
This is what I was talking about.
Rick and Morty, Dungeons and Dragons.
And
Okay.
this is actually written by fantasy author Patrick Rothfuss, and it's a comic. And it's super cool because in it, like basically Rick and his friends are trying to teach Morty how to play Dungeons and Dragons. And there is a very cool scene in it where George R. R. Martin himself shows up. I don't know if you guys can see that. You got to get it right. George R. R. Martin himself shows up in this.
Right there in the background.
I don't know how to work this camera. Oh, yeah. See, there he is.
Oh, there he is. That's George, all right.
So George apparently is good friends with Rick, and like they were teaching Morty how to play Rick and Morty. I just thought that was so funny.
I don't really know Rick super well, but I know enough to know that he's basically neutral evil or chaotic evil, or like basically super self-interested, willing to hurt anybody and or anything, because it sounds a little bit like George's imagined world.
Yeah, Rick. The thing about Rick is that he's a genius, and like at his heart, he's like a nerd. So I do believe that, like, okay, if Rick is like this super powerful kind of like scientist wizard guy, and he's a huge nerd, he could be friends with George R. R. Martin if he wanted to.
Could.
Build a teleporter and teleport right in his house and be like, tell me what happens at the end. Give him a truth serum and be like, tell me the ending. I don't know. But I just thought that was the funniest thing, and I thought I'd bring it in here since we were talking about Dungeons and Dragons.
And Rick and Morty not that long ago.
Yeah, for sure. And the cool thing about this is that, like, Patrick Rothfuss, he's a huge Dungeons and Dragons fan.
Oh, I absolutely know who Patrick Rothfuss is, yeah.
I'm learning a lot about it from reading here. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
I can't recommend it enough. I mean, I don't want to go too far off on a tangent, but it gives you the opportunity, like, to be something you're not, you know. Like I've done stage acting and stuff before, and there are certain people, like, you think, oh, she can play anything, he can play anything, but like, you're not going to cast Meryl Streep to play Muhammad Ali, you know.
She'd kill it. No,
she would give it
She'd try.
Give it her devil damnedest. And if any white woman can pull it off, it's probably her. But you just wouldn't do that. But Meryl Streep can play Muhammad Ali in Dungeons and Dragons. It also lets you be the bad guy. It also lets you be the smooth talking, sociable person when you're not that, you know. There's actually been some research lately that people with social anxiety benefit greatly because of the social interaction and learning how to react to social cues and things like that. So I'm always a big fan of, like, I think everybody should at least try it, you know?
I've always wanted to, and I've gotten close in so many situations. But I think doing it online would actually be a good outlet. So maybe you can invite me to your group. I don't know if they're like I don't know how your buddies would feel about that, but I wouldn't be against it. But
okay, yeah. Well, I can definitely bring it up to them. Yeah. That would actually be pretty.
I'm a noob, so you'd have to like.
It's all right. I played my first game of D&D when I was 9 years old. I am 44 years old now, so. I've held several people's hands through the process of learning how to do it. And you're a smart guy. Like, it's not hard. It's just pretending with a little bit of math thrown on top sometimes.
Yeah. You know, role playing is like, you know, that can be a lot of fun. A lot of people get that through video games too.
Yes. I mean, like, that's why I love Fallout. That's why I love Skyrim.
Yeah. Skyrim is a huge in high school. God. Dude, I remember, like, gym class, I was just playing Skyrim on my laptop the whole time, every single day. Skyrim, and then also I love The Sims, right? I'm just like a huge Sims nerd. I have every single one of them. I play it all the time, and there's just something incredibly therapeutic about just having, like, people and controlling their lives. Because sometimes I feel like I'm so out of control with my own life. But, like, let me go take control of someone else's life for a little bit, and it can be very therapeutic. Let me go be somebody else, you know?
Right.
It's a lot of fun.
But the thing I think that tabletop role-playing games have going for them that things like Skyrim don't is, like, you can't say in Skyrim, you can't be like, I'm going to climb that tree, because that tree doesn't have a climb animation. You know what I mean? You can't be like I want to have an actual baby human child with someone. You can't do that, but like on the
And in The
tabletop,
Sims.
it's right. But in The Sims, like you're limited by what the game
Yeah.
engine allows you to
Oh,
do.
for
Let's be
sure.
honest.
Yeah.
Like in The Sims, you can't decide to start a criminal underground
I mean,
enterprise. Well, maybe you can with the right mods, but you get what I'm saying. It's still limited
I kid. I'm just messing
by the
with
game engine, whereas tabletop is ultimately just limited by the imagination of the
Yeah.
people at the table.
You can do anything. And I've actually spent hours before just like kind of getting a little bit stoned and watching people play D&D on YouTube.
Okay, yeah. So you like Critical Role and things like that?
Yeah, it's cool just watching and seeing the story play out. I feel like I'm just hanging out, you know?
Especially if you have a good dungeon master and people who know how to play well, because there's a skill to it too. Some people hog the spotlight, some people are too shy and quiet, and as a dungeon master you want your characters to go this way, but you can't put the story on rails. There has to be, you have to react to what they're doing. It develops a lot more skills than people give it credit for, I think.
It just sounds like it seems like such a great just interactive experience to have with people, and it just like it helps you explore your imagination. I feel like that is something that more kids should do, and I feel like that's the type of thing. I don't know if I want to get into this right, but I feel like that is the type of thing that more Black kids should have, right? Because it's something that stimulates the mind. Because I feel like a lot of like kids of color, we live in these communities where the stuff that's glorified is stuff just like, oh, let me just sit and watch TV, or let me just like listen to like violent music. It's like they're not doing anything that stimulates their mind and their imaginations. And I feel like we need more of that, not just in the Black community, but just like everywhere.
Again, anyone can benefit from it. I played role-playing games with my daughters since they were old enough to care about it, and my daughter, 22 years old, got her own life now, plays a D&D game with her boyfriend and their friends, not in my game, her game, so yeah, highly recommend. And hey, we'll talk after the stream about we'll talk after the stream
For sure.
But let's get to another set of questions, shall we? So I know we're going to be kind to Quinn on this. Quinn, you're going to answer as much or as little as you want. You have a lot of people on the internet who follow you, and not all of them are bound to be 100% sane people. So answer as much or as little as you want. We're going to start digging into your background, okay?
Okay.
So you told me earlier you're 25, so that means you were born in 1994?
Yes.
Okay. In 1994, I was already in the Army.
Wow.
Yeah. That's the year I graduated high school and joined the Army.
Wow.
So depending on when you were born.
In May.
In May, yeah. So like right at the end of high school.
Yeah.
Cool. And where'd that happen?
That's in Georgia, in I guess northern Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah, I was born in Georgia, born and raised. It's where I live now still. Travel all around the place, but yeah, that's where I live now.
So traveling around, you say you traveled around a lot. Were you a military brat?
No. I didn't travel growing up. I traveled like after high school a lot. I moved around, but now I'm just back in Georgia, just like hanging out.
In the Atlanta area?
Around, I'm about 40 minutes out. Yeah.
Okay.
I came to Dragon Con and hung out with Aziz and Sandra.
Right. See, like that's why. Oh man, I wanted to go to Dragon Con so bad. It's just can't afford a whole bunch of. I can't afford that many, cons in 1 year. It's not cheap.
Yeah.
But, sure. Like I would love to come to Atlanta. Yeah, I'm a fan of the Marvel movies. A lot of them are shot there, so there's got to be some interesting locations. I would love.
It's crazy to see just Georgia kind of transform
because
to the Hollywood of the South.
Yeah, Hollywood of the South.
Because like even the town that I grew up in is so different now. They filmed Vampire Diaries here. They filmed all of those shows. They filmed so much here, and they're always filming something. And it's been so crazy to see the town progressively get more and more crowded, and it just blossom and become bigger and bigger. And it's like I've watched this it's grown as I have grown. It's incredible.
Yeah, I live right in the Dallas suburbs, and it's not the same in that, you know, the economy or the industry, I guess, that's driving Atlanta is like the film industry in a lot of ways. In Dallas, it's a lot of technology, but it's also like I think 12 of the 20 fastest growing cities in the United States are in and around Dallas County.
Mm.
So I've watched it grow from, you know, a big city to like this massive, huge metropolitan area.
Oh, wow.
And it's jarring. I'm sure jarring for you too. But
For sure.
I really like Atlanta's just got to be one of those places I got to go.
Yeah. See, Atlanta, I like the city. I just hate being there because
Okay.
it's so crowded. That's why even
Right.
with Dragon Con, I didn't even come until after 6 p.m. because I was like, I don't even want to even begin to deal with the crowd. And I didn't even drive. I'm just gonna take an Uber. Like I
Right.
took an Uber the entire way because it was just like. Also, I'm very anxious. I'm an anxious driver. I don't like driving in crowds and like in traffic. It makes me just very tense, and it's just not good for me. So I tend to like when I can to not drive. But yeah, Atlanta is just a very crowded city, and I tend to like stay in my own little corner, you know, like Cinderella.
Yeah, hermit lifestyle.
You know.
I get it. You know, that's part of why I started my channel. You know, we talked about it a couple of weeks ago during the social anxiety. You were in the chat during that stream, and you know, you had said you started your channel out of feeling loneliness. You know, or I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but like, it totally makes sense to me because like there was at some point I went, you know, I'm getting to know these people in this fan community, and a lot of them are just really excellent quality human beings. I really would like to get to know these people better. So that's where like kind of my whole channel was birthed from.
Yeah, it was a similar thing for me. Like we did talk about. Like I was feeling lonely, and like I brought up before. Like I didn't know people that were necessarily interested in the same things that I was interested in. So like, yeah, the YouTube channel was very much an outlet. And like still to this day, you go back to that first video, I am literally in a closet talking to myself about some book that I'm reading. So it's like, yeah, that's definitely what it came from. Not having people to talk to. And then also, I feel like I'm just now developing a lot of social skills that I hadn't developed before, right? So it's like I've had in the past a lot of issues talking to people, introducing myself, being like just even being around crowds of people, and it's something that I'm just now learning to develop and deal with. Because like since I started the YouTube channel, there's been like a lot of attention on me.
Sure.
I mean, way more than I'm ever used to, and it's very weird, and it's very weird to have people commenting on you and like ascribing an intention to you. That's one of the weirdest things to me. Like when I'll say or do something and then someone will be like, oh, you're trying to like spread propaganda, or like you're trying to like do this or say, and I'm like, dude, I didn't mean any of that. And yeah, it's just very weird. And it's like I'm learning how to handle and deal with all this stuff, and I'm still trying to.
Well, I think there's a great piece of advice that I got, and it's one of those that like, you know, I have social anxiety. It doesn't always spring to mind, but like something somebody told me was you're always going to get criticized. So you might as well just do what you want anyway.
Yeah. And that's what I do. Okay. So like a lot of people, I've reformatted the way I do my videos recently. Like I'm coming on camera and I've changed my editing style a little bit. So a lot of people have, well, not a lot of people, just like it's kind of like a tiny vocal minority have been like, why are you on camera? Get off camera now. Go back to the way. Even though in the videos I'm only on camera for like a limited amount of time, not very much, but like still getting that. But I'm like, the reason that I'm on camera, if we're gonna be frank, is because every time that I would like post a picture, I'd get a million comments saying, "Oh my God, you're black."
You're right.
Yeah, every time I go to Con of Thrones, people wouldn't recognize me by the way I looked. They recognized my voice. So I decided that I wanted to make my image more a part of my online presence, and that's what I'm doing. And I feel like it's been largely successful. People really like it, and I'm gonna stick with it. And so yeah, that's another thing about like just being like I'm gonna do what I want. Like I'm not into like.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but you know, to those people that are telling you to get off camera, I'm like, you're providing free entertainment and analysis that they are free to watch or not watch. If they don't want to see your face, close your friggin' eyes.
Exactly. This is a very good point.
You know, this is your content that you're creating free of charge.
And honestly, it's had more engagement than the previous content. I feel like now that people do see my face, they connect more with me as a person, as a human being. So, yeah.
And that could just be, you know, people do desire that human connection. We all do. You know, that's why I want to be FaceTime with my people, you know, with all of my guests. When Sanri was on here, she didn't, as the featured guest, she didn't do art. We just talked. You're like, no, you're a human person. That's what this is really about, is getting to know Quinn, you know. And so far, you seem like an all right guy, you know. I've met you in person. I've met you in person on 2 separate weekends now.
Mm-hmm.
I met you. Did you? I don't think you went to the first Con of Thrones.
I did not. No.
Okay, because I would have probably remembered meeting you there. Although my first Con of Thrones experience was very much like I was still a wallflower. I introduced myself to people like Aziz and Ashea and because Val and people like that, but I was still very much like, hi, bye, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, by the time Dallas came around, that had already changed quite a bit for me because I felt like I was old hat. And I remember meeting you and a couple of your friends that were from Abilene.
No, they were living somewhere in Texas on a military base at that point in time because he was in the military. But yeah.
Right. But I remember meeting you in Dallas, but we didn't speak much.
Yeah.
And I got the vibe that you were not super comfortable.
Well, see, that's another thing with like social. That was my first con.
Right.
I was in a state that I'd never been in before, city that I'd never been in before, surrounded by people that I'd never really met before. Like if I didn't have my 2 friends there, it probably would have been worse.
Right.
But yeah. I had social. I was going through a lot of anxiety at that point in time. And it didn't loosen up until like, I guess like a day into it, maybe once, because I remember at that con being really surprised by people coming up to me and being like, I watch your videos. Like I was like shocked. And I guess in hindsight, I shouldn't be, because I guess like people, I watch it.
But that's still like a first type of,
yeah, like
meeting a fan face to face.
I remember after the first panel, I left. I left and like went back to my room because I didn't realize that people would want to talk to me. I didn't realize that people would want to be like, oh hey, I watch your videos. I like missed out like on like that first like couple of hours until like my next time. They were like, where did you go? And I was like, oh, I was off somewhere. And it wasn't like I was trying to like avoid people or
right. I just didn't realize there was anything to do even.
I didn't understand that people even wanted me there. You know, it was just like, so yeah. And it's kind of weird.
Realize that you were already kind of a rock star.
I guess so. Yeah.
But this year at the con, I saw you several times throughout the weekend, a couple different parties, I think.
Yeah. It's much more laid back.
Yeah. Sure. And I'm looking forward to doing it again next year.
Absolutely.
So if it's, I hear it's probably not going to be in Nashville. So where's your vote? Because real talk, Sue the Fury watches my show, you know, so
you're saying it's not going to be in Nashville?
I've heard Sue say it's probably not going to be in Nashville. So make your pleas now.
I mean, Atlanta, it's close. I can get there in like 40 minutes. Of course I'm going to say, but I don't know. I haven't. I've never been to New York, but I don't know if that's practical to have Con of Thrones in New York.
I keep saying Denver, man.
Denver, I've never
Join
been
me
to
on the Denver train.
Denver. Never been there, so yeah, sure.
Picturesque mountains in the background.
I've flown through. I've stopped at Colorado before, like on the way back from California, but I've never been to Colorado.
Yeah, well, again, you got the mountains in the background at slightly higher elevation, so maybe it's slightly cooler.
I like Denver for multiple reasons. But
yeah, for multiple, we'll just say time related. There's certain timings that fall very, very well. Wheezy knows what I'm talking about. But
Las Vegas is a great city. I love Las Vegas.
Vegas would be cool too. J.R. Rowley is in Vegas, so he would be able to throw a pretty raging party out there, I'm sure.
Cool.
That's Geek Chat 1 for those of you who don't know who that is. So yeah, that would be great. So at this last Con of Thrones, then, now you'll have to remind me. Did you do any panels?
Yeah, I did. I think 6 panels. I'm blanking on it now. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did some panels. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. There were so many. Like
there was a lot of panels. Like there was a lot going on at this con.
Have you posted any of them on your channel?
No, but some other people have. I don't tend to like post that type of stuff to my channel. Yeah.
Fair enough. That's probably why I haven't noticed.
Yeah. I think I did one with Bridge 4. He posted it. He posted one on his channel. Some other people posted some too. Yeah.
Stina, Copenhagen would be nice. Yeah, I'm sure it would for you Europeans, but I seriously doubt Sue is going to have us all fly to Copenhagen. Con of Thrones.
Copenhagen.
All right. So let's have another question from Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Lauren Cullen from Lauren's Corner.
Hey, Lauren.
She says, "You've got the best Twitter game. How do you do this? Do you do it for direct discussion? Also, got any tips for using Twitter? Much love, Lauren."
Tips for using Twitter? I don't know.
I mean, do as I say, not as I do. Proofread.
Yeah,
I tweet misspellings all the time.
I was just gonna say, like, type a bunch of typos because that's what I constantly do.
Mm-hmm.
And Twitter doesn't let you edit, so I'm always like looking stupid. Like, oh well, I can't
it's out there, and I'm not retyping it.
God, especially because I like to use voice to text a lot of the time, and that voice to text will F you up because like a lot of the times it'll change the word at the last minute.
Yeah,
like, think you said something and then change it, and then you already hit send, and you're like, God dang it! But yeah,
been there, done that. So Lauren, there you go. Top tier Twitter tips.
Just say what you want, man. Don't let people bully you on Twitter. Like people will try to like shut you down. Like that's one thing I will not stand for is people try to like shut my voice down. I'm like, right, you. Like that will send me flying off. Like I had this experience semi-recently a few weeks ago on Facebook, and I kind of ranted about it on Twitter a little bit. So on the Dune groups, like someone had posted my video where I was comparing A Song of Ice and Fire to Dune, right? And because I knew my video, I knew what I said in my video, I could tell with beyond the shadow of the doubt that the people that were commenting had not watched it.
Right.
I knew because they were like making these contentions that I had already brought up in the video. Like, you can't say this and that, and this. And I was like, I literally said this about 45 seconds into the video. So I know you couldn't have clicked on it. But there was this one guy in particular that really grinded my gears because he's like really coming at me like, I am a professor and I give lectures on Dune. And I did watch this video and I completely disagree with your point. And I'm like, what specific points? And it was like he couldn't say it. So it was so interesting that he was trying to use his like, I mean, his position. I don't know, whatever.
If he is indeed an academic, you know.
Yeah.
I can say I'm a multimillionaire porn star, you know, whatever.
Yeah. My thing is, an academic would have actually read the video and like actually had realized that they were making contentions that I had already brought up. Like if you were, so it was so unbearably pretentious and condescending, and it just really set a fire under me, and that's why I was like going off on Twitter, like, yeah, to hell with these groups. These people are just like terrible and like
Not wrong, though.
really mad. I can't stand that kind of stuff, man. You know what I mean? Even if you are a professor, you have no right, because he's telling me he does lectures on Dune. I'm like, do I not do lectures on Dune? I mean, I'm not to like toot my own horn, right? But if I was to, I'm sure I have reached more people than he ever could with Dune, right? And for some reason, he still thinks that he's like somehow better than me, and that his opinion should matter more than mine, even though he's not even taking the time to consider what I actually said. I mean, you get stuff like that on the internet all the time, though. So
absolutely, and I imagine I am a straight white man. I have it as easy as it comes on the internet, and my audience is small. I still have my haters. I still have people that I think it's just no matter what. And every degree you are away from small group, straight white man, every step away from that just makes it harder for you. And yeah, I'm sympathetic to everybody who has to go through that. It's ridiculous.
The world is a messed up place.
Tis. But you know what? The other side of that is we just, we treat each other well,
there's a lot of good things in the world too. I mean, the world is also a wonderful place. It's not all bad, There's a lot of bad stuff, and we can't ignore that as a species. We have to like face the bad stuff in our society so that we can fix it. Because a lot of people, it's like, oh, let's just like pretend it doesn't exist and hide it under a rug. I don't know if you brought this up or somebody else brought this up, but I was watching someone, they were talking about South Park, the episode where they all hide their heads in the sand. And it's like a brilliant metaphor for just like what we do as a society. It's like we see a problem and it's like bury your head in the sand, ignore it, and it's still not going to go away. But yeah.
Thank you, Melissa, by the way. She says, who can hate Stephen? He has the mystical beard of prophecy.
Exactly.
Appreciate it. I really do. But, it's the internet. It's inescapable. Somebody's going to hate cute puppies playing in a field of flowers. It's the internet. I don't take it personal.
Yeah.
It means I'm a human being with an internet presence.
See, that's the thing. You can't take stuff personal.
You can't. And I did it first, but like, whatever.
It can absolutely destroy you. I said on Twitter like a few weeks ago that like you should not spend that much time reading YouTube comments, because it's just like it is so stressful to read comments, especially when they're about you. And people will criticize every aspect of you, the way you speak, the way you look.
Yeah, sure.
You pronounce stuff. It's just like you can't like really like dwell on that or focus on it. You have to like brush it off. It's the only way.
Wise words, man. I mean, I don't really have that level of it yet. Yeah, my hate's mostly on Twitter. But block. It's what that button's there for. And not that I just mute anybody that disagrees with me or anything, but if you're a dick, you're getting the block, man.
Yeah. It takes a lot for me to block someone. I tend to let people like say whatever they want, unless it's abusive.
Right. It's the personal attacks that I don't have time for. You can disagree with me all you want. Matter of fact, some of the best conversations I've ever had were with people who had a different point of view than I did, Okay, so we're going to go on to another question. At Cleveland Magnar, Shaw, aka Sean, wants to know, what was Quinn's introduction to sci-fi fantasy, and did anyone introduce him to it, or did he find it himself? And I'm not going to let you go to The Wizard of Oz this time. So whatever came after that.
To science fiction and fantasy, I mean, I want to say probably Harry Potter was like the first fantasy series that I just like. That was like the gateway, but then A Song of Ice and Fire came pretty soon. Well, A Song of Ice and Fire was a little bit later. I would probably Harry Potter, if it was what I got like hooked on, what like really like opened the gateway to like books and reading books of different kinds, was probably Harry Potter. And then I just read so much, and there's so like a lot of it. Obviously started off with like child fiction. Like I read like there was a series called what was it called? The Last Apprentice, I think it was called, which was about this kid that like went off to like study with this guy called the Spook, and they would go down and hunt down demons and witches. That was one that I read as a kid. There's like a bunch of those books off somewhere. I never got into Twilight. I was never into that. That was just like, and also that came out later in my life too. I think that was like around when I was in high school. Yeah, just like I read a bunch. Ender's Game, I really
Okay.
liked when I was a kid, and also like
The
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 sequel.
first book in that series. Don't read past the first one.
I mean, I liked Ender's Shadow. And I don't really remember what happens in like the sequel ones. Like Ender's Shadow was like the parallel one. That's like can't think of his name, but the other kid's perspective. Um, I remember liking those books growing up. Series of Unfortunate Events. Those aren't really fantasy. I guess it's borderline.
Yeah.
But like those were like I really loved those books growing up. They were so funny. The series I wanted to like really bad, but I thought that like it focused way too heavily on Count Olaf and what's his name, the guy that Neil
Frozen.
Patrick Harris, Neil
Frozen.
Patrick, huh?
Frozen.
Frozen.
Olaf, right?
Oh yeah, Olaf. Yeah.
Olaf from Frozen. Yeah.
Oh, is that?
Sorry.
Oh, the cartoon Frozen. Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt like the show focused too much on like his side of things because what I liked about the book was that it was like you never really knew what he was doing and he was like hunting these kids always and it was very scary. And in the show, they made it more whimsical, which I didn't like as much. But yeah, I wish I could name a bunch more. I can probably keep naming them off the top of my head if I tried, but yeah, there's a bunch, I guess. I can't really pin down where it exactly started, but I just know I was a big Marvel fan growing up. I read a lot
Okay.
of,
Comic books.
yeah, I read a lot of I was really into X-Men. I really liked X-Men a lot. Now I don't read as much Marvel. I'm more into like just independent stuff. I like Image a lot. I think
Okay.
I started reading Neil Gaiman, I think around middle school, Sandman. I really freaking God, those comics. I've read them again recently. Those are just like on a whole different level. Sandman, it's all about like he's personifying like concepts and ideas inside of like the human like collected consciousness. So like the dream is a person, death is a person, despair is a person. So it's
And
like,
who? Where is this? This is Sandman.
yeah, this is Sandman. And
Okay, maybe that's interesting. That's something maybe I should look into there.
yeah, so Sandman was one that was really just like, oh, that series like triggered me in some way. And like just like that one, that's another one that I feel like it's playing with your subconscious. It's one of those comic series it's one of those stories that like Neil Gaiman is doing stuff intentionally to mess with your subconscious and plant seeds that you don't even realize it's happening. But yeah, I could ramble on and on about random stuff there.
Yay! You are the guest of the hour, man. You can ramble about whatever takes your fancy. You've been a great guest, by the way. Everyone, let's hear some love for Quinn.
Yeah, I've read a lot of fantasy, but when it comes and I read a lot growing up, but when it comes to like what stuck with me and what's like really affected me, there's only like a few series, you know what I mean? There's only like a few that I'm like, okay, that's like my bread and butter. Because I mean there's a lot of shitty fantasy too.
There's a lot.
Most of it,
fantasy.
I would say.
I mean, real talk. And that's probably part of what turned me off of reading fantasy at some point. Okay, so there was a point in time I played Dungeons and Dragons, and then there was a point in time where, when it was still owned by TSR, Dungeons and Dragons went from being heavily focused on just the game to trying to publish a bunch of novels, a series of fantasy novels. Some of them were very good. Most of them were not good at all. And I read a lot of those that were not good, and it put me off a lot of fantasy writing. It took me a long time to work my way back to it.
Fantasy is one of the most difficult genres to write, especially when things like magic and prophecy are involved, because you can really get tripped up on a lot of that stuff. That's why I kind of feel like J.K. Rowling, even though she's not like the greatest writer ever, she's kind of a genius with avoiding that kind of stuff. Because it's like, I feel like, for instance, well, maybe not a genius, because like I was going to bring up like the time turners in Harry Potter. Like I remember reading that as a kid and being like, they could use this for so much stuff. They've got a device that can like take them back in time. Like what? They could use this for everything. And then like I remember the next few books, I was always like, why is they're not coming up? And then like randomly at the end of like, I think it was like Order of the Phoenix, like all the time turners get destroyed. It's like, no, they're all destroyed. So because she knew I have a problem here, like having these devices that can send back time. I got to get rid of these. So
yeah, you can certainly write yourself into a corner with that.
Yeah.
We'll just
C.S. Lewis. Yes, I do. I did
Okay,
read
there you go.
Chronicles of Narnia as a kid.
I read all of the Chronicles of Narnia, had to for school, was very reluctant to start it, ended up really enjoying pretty much the whole series.
Yeah.
All except The Horse and His Boy. I did not love that one, but the rest were really good.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to read them again. That was another series that I read in my childhood, and then also His Dark Materials. Like I think they're doing a show now, so everyone's like now starting to read that one.
I'm just going to wait for the show.
That series, I really like it.
I'm just going to wait for the TV show. I mean, real talk. Again, I'm a slow reader. I'm dyslexic, so sometimes I read the same paragraph 3 times, so I can't. It's not enjoyable sometimes. So.
I totally understand. Actually, I have dyslexia too, but I guess my case is more mild, and it's something that I've worked with, and it's actually gotten better as I've gotten older. I don't know why, but yeah, I totally get it. But
man, mine's not terrible. I can read fine. I can read at a very high level, but sometimes I'll be reading and my eyes will pick up a word from a line or two above or below and work it in there. And then all of a sudden I'm completely derailed and I lost track of, I have no idea what the heck's going on anymore.
Yeah.
Start over the whole paragraph. It's like, what's this?
Yeah. I mean,
it's frustrating. So yeah, I'll just wait for the movie.
The visual medium, I mean, it's incredibly powerful. Like people keep asking me, why am I so excited about like Denis Villeneuve's Dune? I'm like, because I have seen every single thing that Denis Villeneuve has ever done, and I understand who he is.
His cinematography is beautiful.
Yeah,
like Arrival.
Oh my!
That movie, like,
so good. It's one of my favorite science fiction of like the past.
His camera work is top notch. Cinematography is like one of the things that I'm always looking at in anything, TV show, even a freaking commercial. And how are you lighting? Where is your camera placed? How is your camera moving? What type of lens are you using on that? J.J. Abrams, here comes your lens flare, but like the right amount of lens flare is good cinematography. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. And Denis Villeneuve is a master at that. He going to be gorgeous, if nothing else.
I remember when I saw Blade Runner 2049. Mm-hmm. I didn't see it in theater, and I was like, I remember seeing it for the first time and being like, I just
wish I'd seen it in theater.
I was an absolute fool because just the scale that he delivers of just like this.
Yeah, world, I didn't see it in the theater either.
It's just like absolutely incredible, and this man can direct, this man can write. I can't wait to see what he does with Dune, because like Dune is just a book that I feel like, I don't want to get too woo-woo, but I feel like this is one of those books that has the power to alter the collective unconscious of humanity. And people thought I was like crazy when I was saying this about Game of Thrones. And the reason that, let me get into this, since we haven't talked about Game of Thrones.
Okay.
The main reasons I was so pissed about the ending of Game of Thrones was because I felt like A Song of Ice and Fire, and I've always felt like this is such an important story that needs to be told. And with Game of Thrones being so popular as it was, I feel like they had a responsibility and an opportunity to say something to everybody that was watching. This is the most popular show in the world. They had a chance to say something about the human condition and alter the collective unconsciousness of mankind. Everybody that was watching would have had like would have seen the same thing and been affected, maybe not in the same way, maybe in different ways, but everyone, would have been exposed to, something that meant something, instead of just like this meaning, just like nihilistic display of just, I don't even know what they were doing. But yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not going to attempt to apply meaning to anything that came out of the writer's room for season 8 of Game of Thrones. Okay. I'm one of those people. I tend to default to talking about what I love, so if I'm not talking about it, must mean I don't love it. Talk about whatever talk with passion about whatever you're talking about. Sure. But like, I avoid talking about season 8 a lot because I don't love it. There were parts like, okay, I didn't love the pacing and the writing. Let's give it up for sound design, editing, cinematography, costuming, acting. Everybody on that show brought their A game, except the people who were writing it
Yeah.
And yeah, and I always say, like, when you have characters like Cersei, Daenerys, Sansa, Arya, Brienne of Tarth, these very powerful, strong, different types of women, each of whom is a major character in their own right, it would probably be helpful to have at least one lady in the writer's room to help,
Yeah.
to give a female perspective on these powerful women, all these different powerful women. There wasn't one, and that's a problem.
I was so disappointed with pretty much the ending of every, like, almost every female character, like Daenerys. I mean, I remember like being relieved with Cersei's death because I was afraid it was going to be worse. And then like with Brienne, like I just thought it was just like so disrespectful to her character what they did. Like I was like kind of disgusted, honestly. But just like let's move on to something else.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to address. John Webster says he liked season 8. Okay, I lied. I loved it. Sorry, guys. No, I'm not. And don't be sorry. If you love what you love, I'm not here to criticize you for enjoying what you enjoy. But Quinn is not. I'm not going to ask Quinn to apologize for not enjoying what he doesn't enjoy either. But we'll move on to the next thing then. Unless you have something else you want to say about A Song of Ice and Fire or Game of Thrones.
Well, I mean, I still have every season on Blu-ray. Game of Thrones is a TV show that absolutely changed my life for the better.
It absolutely, like, there is no chance in the world I know who you are without that TV show.
Yeah. So like Game of Thrones, I feel like will always like have like a very special place, but like that ending, I can't let that go because I was always a fan of the books first.
And yeah, I was too. I read the books before. I read 3 books before I ever watched an episode of the show.
And that was always where I was coming from. That was always my perspective. I said, I'm a fan of the books. I will review this show because you guys are asking for it. Like if you go back to the very beginning of my channel, it was book.
Right.
Then the show comes, the seasons start airing. I do reviews on the show. Then it's book. That was the flow of my channel for a really long time until around like season 7. When like after that whole season, there was like that year. So I just started making videos on like all the points of the show that I really didn't like. And it's not my fault those videos got really popular. What the fuck? So now it's like now it's like, oh, people, I always get comments on those videos of people that are like, all you do is hate on the show. And it's like,
no, that's not all you do.
Yeah, these videos are like few and far between. These are the only ones that you're seeing and clicking on.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, you make a video about what you were passionate about, and that's what you were feeling at the moment.
Yeah.
So let's move on to another question. At Pat Raleigh 26, also known as Slorp, which is a great name, by the way. This might be a trolling question, but is Dune A Song of Ice and Fire in the future?
I would say I actually have a video on this, and you can check it out. But I would actually say that ultimately, no, they have some similarities. Like Dune starts off as like a feudal society in space, basically. So there are some specific similarities, but ultimately, these series are very different, I would say. And that was the conclusion that I came to in that video that people were complaining about because they didn't listen to the conclusion.
So there you go. That's a full circle there, sitting on that question, and your man Slorp there's got your back. Okay, so I also saw that at Dune Read, the Dune Read through Twitter, says, "Hi Quinn, your enjoyment of the Dune universe is seen in the high quality videos you have made discussing the story. Could you tell us about the first time you read Dune?" You already did that a little bit, but maybe we'll just hear a little bit more. What impact did finding Dune have on you as a creator and as a person?
Okay, so yeah, Dune just it just made me. I think Dune was in a way responsible for me becoming more engaged in politics, because Dune is really about politics. It's about like what powerful people do behind closed doors with with their power through
Right.
politics. And Frank Herbert was able to write about a lot of this stuff because he actually was very involved in politics. He wrote speeches for politicians before he wrote Dune. And so he had a window into what was going on. He saw it firsthand and he put it into the book. So yeah, I think it got me more engaged in politics, and also making the Ultimate Guide to Dune videos made me into just a better video editor. Those videos forced all of my other videos to become better, because like when I first did the Ultimate Guide to Dune, like I knew that people that watch my channel weren't necessarily Dune fans, and so I knew that if I'm going to put out a 30-minute video on this book that maybe no one here has even read, I have to make this the best video that I've ever put on my channel ever. And so that's what I did at that point. And I spent 3 or 4 months working on it. I made it as good as I possibly could. And then there's still mistakes in it. There's still like some funky pronunciation, but whatever. I'm still very proud of it. But yeah, and doing that and seeing that I could make a video of that quality pushed my other videos to higher quality. And I feel like every time I release one of those ultimate guides, I up the ante. Like on the Chapter House one that I'm working on now, it's taking a while because I'm having art commissioned because there's not a lot of fan art. Like a lot people, that's one thing that people take for granted, right? Is that it's really hard to find fan art of all these different characters on the internet and to get permission and to like credit all the people. It's really it takes a lot of time and effort. But with Chapter House Dune, this is one of the later Dune books. There's not a lot of like art of these characters in these places, so I'm having a lot of it commissioned, which takes money and funds. So it's like this,
Don't I know it?
And it's the last video in the series, so I want to make it as good as possible. So this one's gonna be, yeah. So that's like it like. But to go back to the question, Dune just drove my videos to become better. It drove me to think about politics in a new way, and it drove me to think about just humans and how we behave as a society. And it drove me to think about the long view of history too, because that's one thing that Dune deals with, because it takes place over thousands of years. How like something that happens now could affect humans in 500 years or 1,000 years, and we'll be in that time. And I even applied some of that thinking to A Song of Ice and Fire. So just reading that series just made me, I don't know, just a lot of ways. And all the ways
it gave you a whole other set of tools and lenses, it sounds like.
It did, for sure. It's one of those series that changed me. And like I said, every now and again you'll come across one of those things that really affects you and will,
yeah,
better.
It doesn't happen every day, but you should thank it. You should be thankful when it does. Again, I feel that way about A Song of Ice and Fire too. And it's too early to tell, but I have a strong feeling that The Expanse may end up doing me that way, just because of the levels of storytelling and the layers that are going on in that story. Mm-hmm. It's really good. I wanted to draw your attention to Catherine Harding. You're one of my favorite YouTubers, Ideas of Ice and Fire.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Thank you.
And then Melissa Schultz had this question: Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring, predictions and hopes. And I'm going to mute while I sneeze.
Winds of Winter, Dream of Spring, predictions and hopes. This is whenever somebody asks me about Winds of Winter predictions, I'm always reluctant to say anything, because a lot of these things that like I'm still working out myself, and I don't want to say anything that kind of comes across before I've had enough time to really think about it. Because I mean, with The Song of Ice and Fire, it's such a multifaceted story. I mean, I could talk about things for constantly. Like I said in my new video, I guess those would technically be Winds of Winter, Dream of Spring predictions.
Yeah, they would.
So
you predict Cersei, not Dany.
Yeah, Cersei being with Euron. I think that part of the show is probably more or less like right. And I pretty much thought that for a while. I know some people thought Daenerys, but I just can't see Daenerys joining Euron. I just can't see it. It doesn't fit the character. I know since the show, there's been a lot of like people trying to characterize Daenerys a certain way, but a lot of that does not fit where she currently is in the book. Like Daenerys is not the type of person that is going to partake in what Euron is doing.
I agree. She's certainly in a position to do some horrible things.
Yeah, for sure.
And not have it be completely out of character.
Mm-hmm. But ultimately, I see Euron dying. I see him like committing like a lot of atrocities before he dies and killing a lot of people, but
Yeah.
ultimately I do think he'll be defeated.
I think he's trying to become, I don't know, the Dunwich Horror, or something.
I called it apotheosis.
Yeah.
Which obviously means to become a god. It's like the process of becoming a god.
Right.
So it's like that's what he wants. Yeah, I don't think he can literally do that. I think he can amass enough power where he can be like almost god-like in a way, where it's like no one can mess with me, and that's what he wants. He wants to be powerful in a way that no other man has before, right? Because he says worship me, brother, and we see him on the throne with all the other gods impaled. So he wants to be worshipped in a manner above. He wants you to put him above all of your gods, above all of your kings, above everything else. Bow before me, Euron. And he definitely has like some kind of god complex, but
Yes.
but ultimately I think he'll be defeated. And a lot of people, since we brought up that video, some people said, not a lot of people, but a couple of people disagreed with my characterization of the red god as omnipotent, and I totally get it. Because it's kind of Melisandre's religion is kind of contradictory. So she has like this dualistic kind of thing set up where it's like the bad guy, the great other, and then R'hllor, the good guy. But then ultimately she still says things like, if the Lord wills it, it shall be, and the Lord of Light rules the world, and all these things that imply that it's the Lord of Light that's really in control. So there's kind of a contradiction there. So like a lot of the times what I'm picking up from basically Melisandre's viewpoint of her religion is that, yes, there is a great other, but he only exists because R'hllor allows him to exist. And why? Because he's R'hllor, and this is what he does. And we don't have, it's not up to her to question what R'hllor is doing and why, right? But she understands that he is the one with the real power. So that's the way I interpreted it. But I can understand when some people say, "Oh, R'hllor is not omnipotent," like whatever. But yeah, I get it.
I don't
off the rails a little bit.
I actually don't think any of the gods exist in the Song of Ice.
That's another take on it. Yeah, exactly. But I in that video, it was more about like,
right, but it's not
views.
Yeah. Right. It's not about whether or not they're real. It's about
Mm-hmm.
what Melisandre believes to be real.
Yeah,
which is an incredibly interesting, thing to look at, because there's power in belief.
Mm-hmm.
In our world. I mean, I'm not a deeply religious person. I'm not a deeply spiritual person. I have a very scientific mind. I wouldn't call myself an atheist. Atheists are very, very sure of themselves, and I'm, but I consider myself a-religious because those questions are far enough beyond my ability to argue and understand that I just kind of ignore them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's incredibly interesting to read a Melisandre chapter where she just knows she's right.
She's completely clouded by fanaticism.
Right. She believes that any failings are hers, not are her failing to understand the will of the god, not her failing to understand the presence or absence of her god.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not what's at question in her mind.
For sure. Yeah, Melisandre is just such an interesting character. That's why I talk about her a lot.
I don't disagree.
Yeah, Catherine. I would probably say I'm an agnostic atheist, because those terms aren't necessarily mutually exclusive. And basically that would just mean that I would never like assert that there is no God, but I don't hold a belief in a God or gods.
And I don't have any disdain for anyone who does. People, that type of thing is deeply personal.
Yeah,
I wouldn't hold it. I don't hold anybody's personal beliefs against them until they infringe on somebody else's life.
Yeah, exactly. That's.
But again, that's where my problems with Melisandre come, is that her beliefs do infringe on other people's lives, sometimes in very, very unpleasant ways.
She's sacrificing people. She's burning children, or at least attempting to. It's not good things, And she's completely good, but to her, like I brought up in that video, her morality is based on the will of the Red God. So if the Red God says it, then it's right.
Mm-hmm.
There is no question about it. It is right because this is the will of the Red God.
Yeah, but that's moral objectivism, and I'm more I believe a little bit maybe more in subjective morality. But like even in the context of that video you put out yesterday, like I don't know that I fall firmly into one camp or the other, because yes, your morality is shaped by it is necessarily shaped by the culture you grow up in. But I also believe that there are some pretty universal truths.
Yeah.
You know, if I don't want you to do it to me, I shouldn't do it to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's present in almost any society that advanced beyond tribalism.
Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of nuance that we have to like look at. I mean, it's not black and white. This is a very complicated issue. As I said in the video, we're not going to be able to like reconcile this stuff or to figure it out in my video. This is something that humans really just have to think about and keep talking about. It's the only way we're ever going to figure it out, is to like keep discussing it, keep talking about it, and every situation should be looked at on a case-by-case basis. Every situation is different.
I tend to agree with that. It's not a morality and ethics are not digital. They're very analog.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of levels and lots of layers and lots of things to consider. But it's one of my favorite topics. I've done a total of 7 panels in my con panel career, and 3 of them have been on ethics and morality, justice. It's just it's the one thing that'll really get me going. And we're already talking about the King's Justice panel for next year.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's see. The first year was like Wildling Justice. This year was Northern Justice and Guest Right. So I guess we're just moving south.
Wildling Justice is very interesting. It's very like just an eye for an eye, right? Wouldn't it?
Well, and it's actually difficult to generalize because there's so many tribes that do it differently.
Yeah.
But yes, it is a lot more might makes right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you would imagine that's how it would be. I mean, they are wildlings, or people that live out. It is. I don't know, when you put people in a situation like that, and it's kind of like, I'm gonna compare the wildlings to the Fremen in Dune, right? You take a group of people and you isolate them to a very harsh land, it makes them stronger. That's why the Fremen are so badass and strong, because they've been here in the desert, getting stronger for many generations, just like the wildling, and that's what they've developed.
Right. My mom tells me tell everybody my quote about religion and tribe. My quote goes something like, "Love is my religion and the world is my tribe."
And that's a good quote, yeah.
So there you go, Mom. You're welcome. My mom is a Christian and a lovely human being, as good a person as you'll ever meet, and a huge nerd in her own right. All the way back to watching Star Trek on the original airing and reading Spider-Man comics when they were brand new.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Let's see. She's born in 1951, so when Spider-Man came out in 1963, she was just right at the right age. Of course, she's also about, what, it last 2 or 3 years, Ma, before you discovered boys? Anyway, moving on. Fifthson at 613_Shifty wants to know, what is your spirit animal?
Oh.
And this is a great question, by the way, because
spirit animal. I would say a snake, but shut up. Don't people judge snakes?
No. Snakes are greght. Are you Slytherin?
Yes, I'm House Slytherin.
Okay. Yeah. I'm a Hufflepuff for the record, but
Yeah. But let me tell you why I like snakes though. I think snakes, they are very beautiful and misunderstood creatures. I mean, snakes in they're very patient. They're very patient animals. They know how to wait to get what they want. Like, because I have a pet snake, so right. So it's cool to watch, because like she'll sit. Like I give her like frozen mice, right? So she'll sit, and when I bring the mice, even if I don't like take it out of a little bag yet, she can smell it, right? So she'll just sit right there and watch, and she'll wait, just as still as a rock. patient, patient, patient. But as soon as the mouse goes right there, she grabs what she wants. She takes the opportunity. And I like snakes. You know,
That's a good metaphor in there.
People say they're sneaky or whatever, but I mean, you need the right amount of sneak to succeed in life.
Well, yeah,
the right amount.
Like you're never going to convince me sneaking is bad. I was in the Army for 3 years. My job is scout. Sneaky is part of the job description.
Exactly.
But I think there's a good metaphor in there to be gleaned about being patient, and then about going fast and hard for that thing that you want,
Exactly.
and then being patient until then.
Exactly.
Okay, I can dig
it.
it.
You know, another thing about like the snake too is that snakes are very picky. Like, right? Like I can give her a mouse and she might smell it, sniff it, not want it. That one's not good enough for me. I'm going to wait for something better. And that's another thing you have to learn when to be like, no, that's not good enough for me. And, you have to learn when to say it. Because I feel like as a child, I was very quiet and I was always taking shit from people and always like getting everything secondhand. And it was much later in my life that I learned how to stand up to myself and be like, you know what? I deserve something better and that's not good for me. You know what I mean? My snake feels the same way.
Right on. So what kind of snake is it?
She's a ball python. She's
okay.
On 3 years now.
It's a classic classic pet snake.
Mm-hmm.
How big?
Gentle.
Yeah. Is she getting big yet? Like
she's getting fatter and longer now. She's almost adult, I think. I forget when they become adults, but yeah. Yeah, she's getting pretty. She's about, I want to say about almost 4.5 feet now.
I was going to say they top out about 6, don't they?
Yeah.
See, I always wanted a snake, but as a child, my mother was like, "There's just no way in hell I'm living in the same house with a snake," and that's where I'm at now. Mom and I live together now, and in between times, it just never happened for me. Snake would be awesome, but I've lived with people who have that phobia. So
yeah, it
isn't any more than like there. If I'm dating you and you want to have a pet tarantula, that's fine, but we're going to live in separate houses.
A pet tarantula. I mean that's to me. I see. I guess I don't want to be like biased or whatever, but like a snake doesn't affect me the same way as a tarantula. Like,
right.
That's a giant hairy.
Thank you.
Like, literally, and when they get mad at you, they can sling like sharp hairs. Like, and it's like, no, that's absolutely terrible. What if I freak it out and it like stabs me in the face with a bunch of pins? Like, sounds awful. Like my snake, the worst she could ever do would be like nick you.
Right.
She'd let go because she knows you're not a
well, and she's a constrictor, and unless she gets around your neck, she can't really do any major damage.
She probably couldn't squeeze hard enough to like really do anything. Like you could always like just like tear her off. Like
you could. I mean, a smaller child maybe, but
yeah.
But she's not interested in doing that anyway. You're the bringer of food, and far too big to eat yourself. Okay, so this is about Quinn, but I'm going to answer Sunflower Beth's question. My spirit animal is an octopus. Always got a hand in this and that and the other thing. Very stealthy, also. Actually, more stealthy than a snake. Also very smart, but their brain is set up in a way that most like vertebrates are not. A large portion of their brain is contained in their limbs. Like each arm has a separate subbrain, and
oh wow,
yeah,
that's cool.
And like we only share something like 40% of our DNA with them. They're different, and cephalopods are different enough that some scientists posit that they're actually they're xenos that they've been living on Earth for a long time, but like they are extraterrestrial.
I think I've heard that before. Yeah, that's so cool.
I do love an octopus. That is my spirit animal because they're really smart but really really weird. And they're really good at hiding, and that's not nothing for somebody like me either.
That's kind of like a cool like little science fiction idea. The idea that there's like animals on here that were like from some other place,
right?
Yeah, I think Star Trek did. I remember Next Generation did an episode that I thought was like one of the coolest Star Trek episodes ever, because it tied everything in together. Because I would always be like, okay, if like there's all these different species, then why are they all humanoid? Like, I don't like, well, that doesn't necessarily make any sense. But in this episode, they explained that like the I forget which, the Cardassians, humans, like all these races originated from like one race that was on this one planet that sent their DNA out. So I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
It ties it all together and it explains it. Like, it's called, I think it's actually called panspermia. Is that what?
Yes, panspermia is that idea.
Cool idea.
It really is.
They're aliens. I choose to believe it.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with alien octopi. And I will say this too: a super intelligent octopus would be like the sickest drummer ever.
Oh yeah.
So,
have you seen the Netflix show The OA?
No.
There's I don't want to spoil anything, but in season 2 there's an octopus.
Okay.
But it's a smart octopus. It's like it's kind of, I don't know what his deal is, because like I'm guessing the show is canceled now. I don't know if they're gonna bring back season 3, because they were saying it was like Rocky, but like I don't know what the deal with the octopus is. But there's like a talking octopus, maybe from another planet or
not a squid, an octopus, right?
Yeah, it's an octopus. Yeah.
Yeah, don't get it twisted. You can keep your cuttlefish and your squids and your other type of cephalopods. Octopus is where it's at. They're the only invertebrates known to use tools.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's super interesting.
So there is a type of octopus that will go find like half of a coconut lying on the sea floor and pick it up and like scuttle over the top of it, pick it up, and then carry it, bury it halfway in the sand where it wants to make its home for the night, go find another coconut half lying on the sea floor, pick it up, go back to the first one, close itself up in it for the night as a safe place to sleep.
That's so cool.
And the real mind-blowing thing is that in order to have half a coconut, they have to be cut by a human who have only inhabited that island for the last couple of 100 years.
So just learned that.
They've only recently learned to do it.
Wow.
So they're very smart, and they clearly learned from each other to do it, because they all do it now, this particular species. So yeah, okay, we're get off the octopus train now if you like, but
yeah, I was just gonna say, life is so freaking interesting and strange.
It really is.
Like, what is all of this? I think about that. Sometimes I just wake up in the middle of the night and I just think, what is this? Like, what is anything? Oh, I've never had octopus before.
I have had octopus and I've had squid, and I prefer calamari very much over octopus, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, well, actually, that's great. Bernie had also asked me a question on Twitter, and I think she's the last one I got. And this is a great question.
Over.
Okay, there you go. I'm going to ask the question anyway, but you know the one. Bernie asked, are you an over or under the roll kind of guy? And I agree with you. I am an over the top kind of guy. And it's because you can reach over and just like slap it and a little bit. And once you get that wrist action right, you can get the correct amount of toilet paper every time with the proper slap. Do you use that method too?
Yeah, pretty much.
Right on. So there you go, Bernie.
Melissa, I love steak too. I try not to eat it as much anymore, but I do love steak. Okay,
so y'all, we are coming close to the end. We've I don't like to keep my guests longer than 2 hours. We all have lives. So that gives us about 15 minutes. So if you've got any more questions for Quinn, go ahead and start posting them in the chat. I'll give you guys a few minutes. And Quinn, we had such a great time talking about everything else. We didn't get really too much to like your college years, or did you go to college? Yes. Everybody does.
Yes, at first I majored in computer science, and I went to Georgia Southern, and I still majored in computer science when I went to Valdosta, but then I eventually switched to journalism, and then I finished the degree at Georgia State. So I have a degree in journalism, bachelor's.
Bachelor's in journalism.
Yeah.
Okay, I certainly wouldn't have guessed journalism for you.
Yeah, well, really, the reason I decided to do journalism was one, because like computer science, I didn't like the math. It was just like, I mean, I can do math, but it's like, God, do I really want to make my career just doing math all the time? But then I realized that I really did love writing. And so I thought, because I actually got inspired by George R. Martin, because I remember hearing him say how like him going to journalism school made him a better writer. So I thought, if I could do that, that would be great. So that was the reason I went for that. And then, I had the appropriate amount of credits. And, the thing is, I haven't really done anything with it because I've been doing the YouTube thing. But I can't say I haven't done anything with it because I've been, like I said,
it had taught you how to write, right?
My writing. And right now I'm working, I don't want to say who, but I'm working with somebody on a comic book. I actually talked about this in my channel called Ataria. And it's about witches. But yeah, so that's
right on.
So yeah, so that's that whole backstory. But yeah, my college experience, those two buddies of mine that you met at Con of Thrones, I actually met them at Valdosta. We went there together, and he's in the military now. She did engineering, but yeah.
Right on. Okay, well, we got a few questions rolling in now. Kelly, the jaded redhead, wants to know, Quinn, what's the best concert you've been to?
The best concert that I've been to? I haven't been to that many concerts, to be honest.
It should be easy to answer then.
I don't know if I want to reveal this about myself.
Is it Britney Spears or like?
No. It's somebody that's in Vegas. I want to see if you can guess. I mean, it's someone that performs in Vegas.
Someone that performs in Vegas.
It's it's known as a really good singer.
Tony Bennett.
No. It's a female.
I mean, because that would be awesome, actually.
It's not Cher. It's a female, though.
A lady that's not Cher. I don't know who's been in Vegas.
Not Celine. It's not Celine.
I mean, there's okay.
I want to see if someone can guess because
that's the challenge. See who can guess.
It's not Celine, but it's another female singer that's in Vegas and also came out in the 90s.
All right, now we're having fun with guess that singer.
There you go. Like Santiago, I can't say your name.
Oh, Bette Midler.
No, not that. The one.
Oh, Adele.
No, the one. No.
Oh, Mariah. Okay. Santevia. Got it right.
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah, I've seen Mariah like twice actually. I really like. Mariah.
Hey, that woman can blow. Dude.
Yeah.
Got pipes.
Yeah. I've always liked Mariah. Like she's like one of those vocalists that made me want to like do music. And I think that like people like hear the name Mariah Carey and they think like Christmas songs, like pop songs. But if you go back to some of those 90s songs and you listen to like the musicality and what she's doing with her voice, it's absolutely fucking incredible. And there's like almost no one that sings like that. Like the melismatic quality, like the tone quality that she has, like the resonance, the versatility of her voice, the power of her voice. Like she easily matches Whitney, if not surpasses. I mean, like, I'm saying I've listened to every single Whitney Houston album. I've listened to every single Mariah album. I've listened to most of Celine's work. I've listened to Aretha. Like Mariah's notes, 5 octave. I mean,
her range is incredible.
Mariah's anything 5 octave above, Mariah's going to be more clear, more powerful. Whitney had a clarity of tone. I would say like Whitney's voice was like if there's
power, dude. She had power.
Let's say it's like a sink. You're running a stream, and then Whitney could just like turn on the faucet and just go Rah! And just like felt like a motherfucker. But then I feel like Mariah always had the control, the versatility, the range, the musicality, and then also she wrote all of her own songs.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kat Harding again. Her favorite question: grilled cheese or cheese quesadillas?
Quesadillas.
Good answer. All right, Anna. Quinn, any thoughts about the Dance with Dragons prequel pilot that got greenlit?
I
mean, in a future video.
I'm interested, but we'll have to wait to see. I mean, I can't pass any kind of judgment either way.
Okay, Melissa Schultz. Quinn, what fantasy series that hasn't been put to film have you always wanted to be made into a show/film?
King Killer Chronicles.
There you go.
Yeah, I think King Killer Chronicles, it's screaming for like a show or a movie or just something. Like, yeah, so I go with that one.
Okay, well, Quinn, not to put you on the spot, but could you sing something for us on your way out? I'm not going to make you do that, but that's up to you.
Let me see. So you can keep me inside the pocket of your ripped jeans. My voice is a little raspy right now.
Well, we've been talking for 2 hours.
Oh no, my headphones came out.
That was actually quite nice, though.
I won't ever let you go. Wait for me to come home. That's Ed Sheeran. Let me see. I'm gonna try again. Loving can hurt. Loving can hurt sometimes, but it's the only thing that I know. No, when it gets hard, I know it can get hard sometimes, but it's the only thing that makes us feel alive. We keep this love in a photograph. We make these memories for ourselves, where our eyes are never closing, hearts are never broken, time's forever frozen still. There you go.
There you go, dude. Quinn, you got a second. You got a shot at a second career there, man. Lots of love showing up in the chat. Yeah, that was. You do have a really nice voice, so.
A little raspy, but yeah.
Well, again, we've been at this for 2 hours now. I don't think I'd sound half that good. Again, I do all right, but I'm not lead singer, not anymore. Oh, okay. Well, Quinn, we're down to the last few minutes. So, what's coming up next for you? I know that's a heck of a loaded question because you got quite a few things coming up soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be focusing on a lot more science fiction because that's been really popular for me lately. Well, as I feel like a lot of people are kind of pulling back on the A Song of Ice and Fire a little bit, because a lot of people are kind of just taking a break. So I'm still gonna do A Song of Ice and Fire always, of course. But like I've got a lot of I'm doing the Culture series, more Hyperion. I'm gonna focus more on Foundation. Asimov, classic writer, one of the he invented basically the galactic civilization empire, basically. So a lot more science fiction. I'm planning on getting into some more King Killer Chronicles stuff. I just have to really kind of reread A Wise Man's Fear so I can conceptualize some stuff and figure out what I'm going to do. But yeah, so that's all that's in the future for me. And also the comic that I'm working on, which I should be ready to premiere some stuff about it pretty soon because I have some art that's almost ready that I've been working on. And the story has really come together and I'm really freaking excited about this. And I can't wait to show it to everyone. But yeah, so all that is in my future.
That sounds like a lot. Sounds like good stuff. I've always been a little bit more into sci-fi than fantasy myself, so I'm looking forward to it. Probably has something to do with some of those bad fantasy books I read.
Yeah,
when I was in middle school.
Oh man, I mean it's so hard for some people because you like Rothfuss, right? You like King Killer.
He's fine.
Yeah, see, I like that series. I like it. But I recognize that there's issues. I have a friend, my friend Brittany. I told her to read it and she hates me for it. She's like, why did you tell me to read this? She absolutely hated it. She despised Quoth. She felt like the story went nowhere. So everything's not for everyone. And then also on top of that, there is a lot of just shit that's plain bad. Because I was telling her, you cannot like King Killer, but you cannot tell me that it's bad. His prose, it's incredible. He's a really good writer. He developed the world. I mean, you might think it's boring. You might think it's slow. You might think it's all these things the main character lacks. But to tell me that it's bad, you haven't read bad fantasy.
I'm not going to tell you it's bad.
Yeah.
Well, that's not generally a thing I like to say anyway, because good, bad is very relative, Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Rothfuss is good at what he does, but I don't particularly like him. Mm-hmm. He's said a few things a few times, and it just made me go.
Oh, you mean personally? He said some.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't really know anything about a lot of that.
Okay.
Stuff.
Well, I'm not going to try to taint your view of him either. Just, he's not a terrible person, but like he said a few things a few times that made me roll my eyes and just go, okay, buddy, you got it. But he is very good at what he does. No disrespect there. And geez, this is going to sound terrible. I'm not comparing him to Lovecraft. Lovecraft was a horrible human being.
Yeah.
Who wrote some stories that I really like. Patrick Rothfuss wrote some stories that I didn't like as much, but he's also not nearly as bad a person, let's be honest. I'm not trying to compare him to Lovecraft.
Lovecraft was a very disturbed man. I think we had this some people had this conversation with me on Twitter like a couple weeks ago about Lovecraft and asked me about him. And I was just basically saying that, like, yeah, he's probably a disturbed dude, but like ultimately, like these stories, let them speak for themselves as far as like
right. There's just because he was a terrible person doesn't mean he didn't have some value to his writing.
I mean, I feel like the fact that he was a terrible person probably influenced his writing a lot. Some people pointed that out to me, like his xenophobia is that's like what cosmic horror is, right?
Yes.
It's being afraid of something that's out there, of some being that's out there that's going to invade you.
The other, yes.
Yeah, exactly. So he wrote about that so well because he himself was a xenophobe.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying that it was okay. I'm just saying that is the fact. That's what makes it so terrifying.
But again, also the main character in the Kingkiller Chronicles is kind of a jerk.
Yeah, Quoth.
I don't remember his name off the top of my head. Quoth, that's it. Mm-hmm. But just it is what it is. But I think it would make an interesting story, just to or an interesting TV show.
But he has to finish it. See, I feel like I have way more faith in George R. Martin than I have in Patrick Rothfuss with Kingkiller Chronicles. And it's not because I think he doesn't want to finish the story. I think that I've read the first books and I have no idea how he's going to wrap up this whole story in one book, because we still don't even know why he's called the Kingkiller. There's so much that we just don't even know. And he's been working on this book as long as George has been working on The Winds of Winter. And this is the longest George R. Martin has ever took. So I don't know. I'm just wondering what Rothfuss is doing, if he's actually planning on releasing it. Because unlike George R. Martin, he doesn't seem to necessarily be I don't, it doesn't seem like it's as much of a priority to him. But I don't know. I guess I can't judge that. I'm not in his writing room.
Right. Okay. We're not gonna go out on that note on me bagging on something. So, okay, there's always a series of questions I like to ask near the end anyway, so we're going to get into it. Okay. Quinn, we're going to make the story of your life into a movie, and always same 3 questions. Who plays Quinn?
Oh my God!
In the Quinn story,
Childish Gambino.
Oh man, I love it.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get Donald Glover. Oh man, he's so good. I love him.
Or the guy. Have you seen the movie Sorry Not to Bother You? I can't think of that guy's name.
Guy. I haven't seen that one.
Yeah.
But we're just going to go with Donald Glover because it's too good anyway.
Yeah.
He can even do the singing bits for you.
America.
And I think we might have an answer for this one from earlier. Who's?
Oh no.
To be the director.
You totally dropped out for a minute.
Okay.
You went totally black.
Yeah. Are we back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. Yeah, I see it's catching up now. Okay, cool. So whose unique visual style are you bringing to your movie? So you've already cast yourself, but who's directing?
Living or dead? Or can it just be?
No, we're making it in 2019.
Okay.
So it's gotta be living. It has to be a living.
God dang it. I guess I'll go with Denis Villeneuve.
That's what I thought you might say.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, he's my favorite at this point.
He's awesome. It's not who I would pick for my movie. That's okay. We'll get into that when I do my own series. But he's a solid choice. And finally, what would we call it? What's the name of your life story so far?
Oh my God, this is so. I don't know. I
know. I love blindsiding people.
The name This is hard. I'm notoriously bad at coming up with names. I click
Okay.
the randomize button when I'm playing The Sims. No, wait. Okay. I don't know. I want to say something that I don't know. I can't think. Someone
Okay. Well, we'll workshop that, y'all.
Yeah.
Does anybody in the chat have a good idea for what we should name the Quinn story?
Because I have a name, I want it to mean something, and I don't want to just say some random shit and then just feel like I don't know. My life story.
Right. We'll just call it Quintessential.
Oh yeah,
The quintessential story.
The quintessential story.
I hope that works for everybody because that's where we're ending it, though. So, once again, Bernie got in there right at the same time. Quintessential. There you go.
Oh my God, yes.
Love you, Bernie. All right. So with that, we're going to end. Everybody, make sure you go follow Quinn on Twitter. Make sure you go subscribe to his YouTube channel if you're not already. You probably are, but if you're not, you should be. Quinn, thank you so much for joining me. This was a blast. You're a great interview. You're welcome back anytime. Anytime I've got a subject you care enough to talk about, feel free to let me know and jump on in.
Thank you for having me on. It's been so much fun. Yeah,
and maybe early in the year, once you're when season 4 of the Expanse comes out, maybe we'll get together. If you find yourself a big enough fan, you want to talk about it.
Yeah, I'll probably have read them all by then.
Probably
like 8 of them, right? How many of them are the books?
I think there's 8 right now.
Yeah.
But anyway, Quinn, again, thank you very much for coming. To everybody who joined us today live, thanks for hanging out and having a good time with us. For everybody watching this after, try to make it live next time. It's way more fun, I promise you.
Absolutely.
Next week we will be talking about the Expanse. It'll be me. It will be Questing Beast, aka Nessie. She's in the chat somewhere, or at least she was earlier, and also Maester Mary from the Up From Under Winterfell YouTube channel will be joining me, and we'll be talking about the Expanse. So until then, everyone, peace and be excellent to each other. Bye.